What are some of the biggest challenges when you go to deploy virtual commissioning? Let's talk about that next. Okay, so what are some of the biggest challenges when you go to deploy a virtual commissioning type of initiative? Now, before we dive in, we should make sure that we get a baseline and make sure we're on the same page. Virtual commissioning is this concept where you use digital simulations alongside physical controllers. You get the logic on the controller, you connect it to the simulation, and you do testing with that to verify that the logic on the controller operates as you intended. That way, when you go to physically install and physically commission a production system, you don't have to debug it there. You minimize the downtime for the production system, get it installed, and you're up and running. So, when we talk about the challenges for deploying this, there are really three big ones that we're going to walk through. One big challenge lies in executive buy-in and ROI. What's funny, when we conduct survey-based research, almost across every initiative, this is one of the biggest challenges because communicating and understanding the value of any initiative is difficult. But in this case, it's not that hard, right? So the idea here is if you go to physically commission a production system, you can run into all sorts of errors, and it takes time to debug that. And costs, because of that, are both in the amount of time you have to pay people, as well as the number of days that a facility or plant is down in the corresponding amount of products it would have been producing, or services it would have been producing if it had gone up faster, right? So the ROI equation here is actually pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You just gotta believe in the value proposition and what it can deliver. So listen, I know this is not easy. It's not easy to go to an executive and promise, hey, if we make this investment, we're gonna see this type of return. However, there are a lot of case studies out there where manufacturers have documented the ROI that they've realized from this kind of effort. So it's best to rely and reuse those as real world examples of the benefits that you get from virtual commissioning. Another challenge that we typically see around virtual commissioning and lots of other initiatives is upgrading individual skill sets. So with any initiative, there's going to be changes to processes as well as the roles and responsibilities that are going to be executing it. So that means the people that are actually, executing the process, in this case, it's installing and commissioning production cells, lines, systems, and entire facilities. So you're going to need to have training for that. You're going to need to reinforce the new way, the new approach that they need to be doing things. But also, it's just as important to have kind of expert level champions, people that others can go to really rely on them. And when they get to a point where they're not sure what exactly they're supposed to be doing, maybe, or how to resolve a challenge that they ran into in the midst of this new process. So that's another challenge. So if you've been around initiatives like this before, maybe not just even virtual commissioning, any kind of tech-led initiative, it's always requires more than just installing software. Enabling technology is an important piece of it, but you have to upgrade the skills of the people that actually are going to be implementing the change, that are going to be changing what they've been doing on a day-to-day basis. That is absolutely critical. And this idea of having a champion, not only making them available, like carving out time where they can help and assist and they don't have a whole lot of other responsibilities. Some part of their week is dedicated to helping others. That's crucial, especially when the new process is being used for the first time. First time it is under strain. With any technology-led initiative, frankly, the One of the biggest challenges is always going to be around culture change. And this speaks to that directly. One other challenge, and this one is a doozy, is controlling the scope of the initiative. I've seen so many companies get very ambitious very quickly. They want to make huge steps, and why wouldn't you? I mean, a lot of these initiatives hold a lot of promise, and you want to get there as soon as you can. However, if you try to go too fast or bite off more than you can chew, frankly, it can disrupt what you're already doing. So you got to be careful. You got to be able to keep it in scope, narrow it down, and do something and get value from that effort, that stage of the implementation. And then you can expand it after you have success, and on from there until you realize the full vision. This is a really hard part of all this. Not just for maybe you individually if you're leading one of these efforts, but a lot of times you might have an executive come to you and say, you got 3 weeks, get it done. Yet that really might not be feasible. It's important to set correct expectations around delivery of this kind of effort, of the change, as well as the ROI. So it's super important that you contain scope, especially early on. Do something that is reasonable, feasible, where you can get ROI, and continue on from there. So those are the 3 big areas or big challenge you need to think about when you look at virtual commissioning. One is executive buy-in and ROI. The next one is how do you enable users with the right training, support, champions. This gets to culture change. And number 3, it gets to controlling the scope, not getting too ambitious and reaching too far. That's it. Take care and talk soon.